Hello, welcome to Separated by Water. Tonight we're going to talk about Colin's beloved Spurs, his new impact manager that is Thomas Frank. Um, how have you come to terms, Colin? Good morning, good evening, by the way. How have you come to
Good
terms with
evening.
it?
Thanks.
Having had time to digest it, is he a good signing for you?
He's an intriguing appointment. And first of all, I would say, look, for whatever was the Ange era is over. It was a great legacy. He won the trophy. The league performances weren't, and results weren't good enough. And that's all gone. I hope we can all reunite behind Thomas, because that's what we need to do. He's an intriguing appointment. Maybe more of an old-fashioned appointment in the way that 30, 40 years ago, a manager would have managed a club and done well, would have attracted the attention of a bigger club, and that manager would make the move and see how he does. And often the theory was that with more resources, better players, he would be a better manager. And hopefully with Thomas, that will be the case. I like everything I've seen. I like how Brentford have played. I like how they've competed. I like what he says. I'm very, very happy with the appointment. A wee bit nervous. I think we'll need to get off to a good start. We'll see the fixtures tomorrow morning. Overall, I think probably the best or joint best that I would have wanted at the club yet.
He's not, as I mentioned the word impact manager, he's not a Pochettino, he's not a Mourinho. Have you had to lower your standards, or change your approach to management of the mighty Spurs?
No, hope not. I mean, yeah, if you mean like a charismatic, top of the range, oven ready, trophies and medals already there, he's not that. But who's available at the minute? I can't think of anyone who's readily available to come to Spurs. Some people talked about Inzaghi. Yeah, possibly, but there's style issues, Italian issue. Conte didn't quite fit the bill, so it may be better for us that he comes in with no bells and whistles, so to speak, and gets a chance to impress himself upon the team, the board, and the fans. I think that Spurs have tried everything, so we might as well try this one as well.
Like, I know he's bringing his own backroom staff with him, which leaves Brentford. Where does it leave Brentford? That's for another day. But I feel that they could be a team that's in real trouble this year. They've had their heart and soul ripped out of them.
Sadly,
And
I
I do
agree.
feel we'll talk about that when we're doing our predictions at the start of the season. Um, okay, he arrives with his backroom staff. Leave on the pitch alone at the minute. Off the pitch, what's on his to-do list? What does he have to do first and foremost?
Good question. I think first and foremost, he needs to establish his relationship with the board and with Daniel and find out what is expected from him in terms of next season and beyond targets, trophies, league position, whatever it might be, so that everyone's clear what's success and what's failure. One of the criticisms was Ange had won a trophy, but still wasn't good enough, So I think that's one. Also needs to work out with them where the boundaries are, who does what the board say and what he says, what he's allowed to do in terms of transfers and transfer budget and so on. I think that's one. I also think the medical team and the scouting team, now they may be open to change, require scrutiny. The injuries last year were infamous. And for whatever reason or reasons there were, they need to be resolved. Standard can afford to carry that level of injuries. Now, Brighton, it appears, did, because they had a worse injury rate than we had, but still, there's no point in having millions of pounds worth of players not performing. We need to look at why that's the case and try to stop it. We probably need to look at the scouting system and say, how are we going with it? There appears that there could be a little bit of tension between the two groups who are currently there. One who do the stats-based money ball, as we call it, approach, and the other who are more in like what they see, the old-fashioned one, and go and watching players, individual players. and having a feel about whether they would make it or not. So we need to sort out which of those it's going to be and where that fits with transfer purchases.
Yeah.
I think those are his
I know
main ones off the field, yeah.
He's a very data-driven. He's a very data-driven manager. That's made public that he works with his data. He has an old-fashioned, robust setup of players. In a few words, does that suit your squad as it is at the
minute? Good question. Well, that's like saying if Thomas Frank had the ability to buy the players who are currently with Spurs, would he? I'd say for a large part, yes. I think there are a lot of good players in there, and some potentially very good players. And the next part after recruiting them, I think that to go back a little bit, he will need to identify or have already identified his top 2, 3, possibly 4 targets. I don't think there'll be any, and hopefully they're good enough to be the game changers that I've talked about. After that, he has the players there, and it'll be a matter of him, probably an awful, but impressing himself upon them. Yeah, even before they get near a football or a football pitch, they will need to buy into Thomas Frank about how he's going to do what he does, how he imposes himself on them. Is he an arm around the shoulder, or is he an authoritarian? Is he aloof? Is he in with the crowd?
Come in there then, in that point.
Yeah.
Can I come in that point then, Colin? You've seen the social media posts with all. I think it was 3 or 4 players put up posts supporting, showing their disappointment about Postecoglou going. How does he build relationships with players who are of the mind that Ange should still be there?
Well, I have, as a manager of staff, I'm not saying this is a case, but it's an illustration. Some people who were leaving, and I had to do the speech as they were leaving, telling them how wonderful they were, when many of us were glad to see them go out through the door. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with Ange. I think it's perfectly reasonable that some of the players would have expressed their gratitude and their disappointment, because we're emotional people, and it's been a very emotional time at Tottenham. I don't think that those players or any of the other players will be too difficult to convince if they hear what they want to hear Thomas Frank. So he will need to address that and set the trend with the players in the changing room as quickly as he can. There's no management term. It's called forming, storming, norming, and performing. And what it really means is the first set is you throw the people together. For a while, they're all knocking about, mutual ritual sniffing, we call it, testing each other out, finding what's on what's. And once that's all settled, the norms appear, the behavioural expectations. And only when you get them sorted out can they really perform. And I think there's a lot of merit in that. And that's what I want them to do. Clear the air. Clear the system. Clear himself telling the players, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to be off the field. And then we're going to get onto the field, and this is how we're going to do it. I think he is quietly authoritative, and I really like that.
Okay. Right. Going to throw you into the deep end. I just want in or out. Okay. I'm going to get through. I won't do your full 50-man squad. Okay. No. I just want. I want. Should they stay or should they go? Should they stay or should they go?
The clash.
Yeah, a bit like that. Fraser Foster.
Go.
Fraser Foster.
Go.
Go. Ben Davis.
Yeah. Stay.
Son.
Go.
Ooh, I'm surprised at that. I think he's got one good season left in him.
Sure.
Timo Werner.
Go.
Madison.
Stay.
Solanke.
Stay.
Vicario.
Stay.
Regulium.
Go.
Danso.
Stay, like yes, stay, yeah.
Bentancur,
Stay,
Romero,
stay.
Alfie
I want them
Whiteman,
to stay. He's going. He'll go.
Richarlison,
Yeah. Go.
ooh, Romero,
No, I want him to stay, but he might go. I think he'll stay.
Bissouma,
For me, stay.
Austin,
Stay.
Kulusevski,
Stay.
Pedro Porro,
Stay.
Jed Spence. Be careful.
Stay.
Yeah, yeah,
Stay.
he's earned his place. He has to have earned his place last year. He Brennan Johnson.
Ole, ole. Yeah, stay.
Stay, absolutely. All right, okay. Well, you want a bit of a clean out there. I won't go on. I won't just keep it. Van de Van.
Oh, stay. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So where are you going to get a keeper to replace Forster? Who gets the number
Well, we'll
one
have
jersey?
one. Brandon Austin. He's there.
Yeah.
He will replace him. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
think that you're limited going through each of the players and saying, go stay. I appreciate what you mean. And going along with that, you'd be saying, well, some of them to stay because nobody better will appear. I think if Vicario could be coached, I think he's a lot of natural talent and what he needs in terms of set pieces and collecting the ball, I think can be coached. I think what I've seen from, and you mentioned Kinski, of course, is there as a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So he and Austin, I think, Vicario, he and Austin should make up the three keepers for next season. That would be my, of the ones I said to go, I think they've either really come to the end. I think Ben Davis will stay for a year. Timo Werner, no, not for me. A couple of others had mentioned. Reguilon
Son's the one.
hasn't been given
Son
a
is
chance.
the one that surprised me, Colin. I was surprised you said that Son could go because I don't
Well,
think he's have got.
yeah.
I don't think you've got a leader on the pitch other than him. I don't think you have a leader that can take the team, that can control it, that can rally them up. Who does that job?
Yeah. Well, there's two bits to that. The first bit about Son, I think his problem was the last few years he's been playing all through the summer. Each summer, he's come back incrementally knackered. And I don't knock him for that. I think he's an incredible ambassador. He's a legend for Spurs. I love him. I really do. But to be hard-nosed about it, I think that it may be that with a new manager coming in, he may not want that shadow of Son cast over him. They might get a major deal for him and a big payday to go to the Middle East, wherever, Saudi Arabia or whatever. And I have a feeling that may transpire. Okay. But I love him to bits. Do I think he will be as good next year as he's ever been? No, I don't. And there was frustration, last year with his performances at times. And we love him. This is not to criticize him. We love him. But it's like going to see a rock star from the 70s and they can't hit all the notes anymore,
Yeah.
Really,
I know. I take your point, and
yeah.
I can see. I've seen a deterioration in his play over the last week while, last season especially. So, okay, overall,
I want them to go. Yeah, unlike the boxer who didn't know when to retire, I want them to go if he's going to go on a high. Yeah, on a real high.
Does he get a statue? Does he get a statue like Harry Kane's going to get?
Right. He will get a mural. I don't think he'll get a statue. I don't think so. Get a mural.
All right. Sorry, I just threw that in there. Okay, so
thanks for that.
Considering the season you had last year in the league, and I emphasize in the league, what needs to be worked on? What needs to be done on the pitch to change to make it work?
Yeah, on the pitch, and I think this is where the second part of Thomas's to-do list, the second area, will be important. I think the playing style, And within that, tactical variations, he needs to get an idea of what, within that style, what his best 11 or his best 15 are. And assuming what I've said earlier, that some of the issues are sorted out with the medical group, and we never have another season of injuries like we've just had. Those are two, so that there can be a Tottenham style adapted by him, which will have tactical adaptations within it, you know, and school the play, so that very quickly they become A, confident and knowledgeable about what they're doing, and B, competent, you know. Now, what I've read of Frank is he is adaptable. He will tweak. He's pragmatic. He will take goals from set pieces. He's not a purist, and I applaud all of that. As I've said before, I appreciate the value and, in a way, the beauty, if you will, of defensive football. Not all the time, but it has its place. So I would like to see him make them more difficult to beat and play with more tactical acumen according to whom they're playing, so that they're not giving Chelsea the opportunity to tip it over the top of them, like hitting a sand wedge over the top of our forwards and our defenders and their forward running into an open net. You know, we've got to be more astute than that. We've got to be harder nosed. We've got to really go out and want to win and be difficult to beat. That will increase the confidence, of course it does. So that's what those are my to-do list things on the field.
Well, I think he does. I think he can adapt. I think there's no doubt about that. He adapts according to his opposition as opposed to somebody just saying this is the way we're going to play. I think he shows that he can do that.
Yeah.
Do you think that Ange was successful in that respect?
Oh, very limited. Only in the sense that we adapted for the away legs in Europe. And that, everyone's a terrible match, the final. That, to me, it was a great match, great tactics, and it was great to see a tactical plan work out. But, you know, with Ange, there were criticisms from probably the 11th match of the previous season. And I was at a number of them. In the first 10 games, Spurs were top of the table and had a series of wins. We beat United 2-0. United had the crossbar earlier on. We beat Sheffield United 2-1. The goals were scored in, I think, in the 8th and 12th minute of added 1-0. Now, so what? Well, that 10-game run could have looked a lot worse. After that, we started to look really bad, and that carried through into this season. So for me, there's something chronically wrong with how we were playing. You know, we were losing so many games at home. So, to me, in the analysis, Ange either wouldn't or couldn't adapt at the highest level to protect Tottenham, you know?
Yeah.
I'm hoping and believe that Frank has had enough experience in the league already. He's had good results against the Arsenals, the Liverpools, the Uniteds, even the Spurs. And with better players, with great respect to Brentford, will be even better at that kind of thing, you know? And that's what I need him to do. I need him to look at the team we're playing, work out how we impose ourselves on them, and where they're trying to impose themselves on us, block it out, blank it out, stop it. Now, if that requires more people in defence, so be it.
Fine. Okay, good answer. I know that the fans probably, as the players are, I think the fans are probably going to be divided about Ange leaving as well. But what does Thomas Frank have to do in his first 10 games? Let's say half the season, 10 games, or slightly more than 10 games. But in the first half of the season, what does he have to achieve? I read a figure today. This is your 13th manager in 25 years under Levy. I didn't realise Levy had been there for 25 years. This is your 13th manager under him, which is less than 2 seasons per manager.
Yeah, and Poch took up 5 or 5.5 of them, you know, so that that makes the average worse. What does he have to do in the first 10 games? Well, I would say win them all. I think things like being unbeaten at home, being up on the table, challenging, and being competitive in every single of those 10, every one of those 10 games. I think that's what the fans would be very appreciative of that.
How long does it get, Colin? If you're 13th after 10 games, what happens?
Yeah, I mean, there will be people classify them as Ange in. Okay, we've had Ange in and Ange out in terms of Spurs fans who, for all they've said, yeah, we support the club. We'll want, there was something about them that will want to prove their point and go, we told you so. You know what I mean? We should have. So Spurs are 13th after 10 games or halfway through the season. Yeah, I mean, there will be alarm bells, but there would be anyway. If Ange had stayed, there would be alarm bells. I think then we look at the style of play and we look at what has caused us to be 13th. You know, and if the injury rate is just as bad as it was last season, I would be looking at Thomas Frank and I'd be looking at everyone. So why the hell is this the case? Have you learned nothing? You know, part of your job is to learn how on earth are we perpetrating this. If it's bad play or bad tactics, well, it's down to him. But I think after half a season at 13th, first, third, 13th, or 23rd, but you know, we will, at halfway through the season, there will be a big analysis of what's been happening. Either a happy analysis that we're second in the table or third or whatever it may be, a wary one where we're 13th or worse than that, and a very damaging one, you know, we're down at the relegation zone. But the analysis will be saying, why are we where we are? Yeah.
I asked that question a particular way and asked it in a particular way on purpose. And you've just given me a long-winded answer without answering the question. Does he get to stay? Will he be gone after 10 games? If he's a 13th or 14th or 15th in the league, does he get sacked?
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I didn't I didn't hear that bit. I maybe got so excited with the long-windedness of my one. No, he doesn't. No.
No? How long does he get?
No. I would say he would get a season and a half.
Okay. See, I'm going to give you my tuppence. I think he's going to do, I reckon he's going to bottle it. I reckon he's going to arrive here. I think he's at a team of misfits at Brentford. Players who he could mould into his shape. I think you have a different degree of players, a different level of players. You have James Maddison, who's clearly wants to play a certain way and he's very good at it. He's a lovely lad. He comes across well. He's a personality. He's established. Maybe let's say that he's established. Brennan Johnson is now established. Tim Werner, established. I'm not so sure that this guy has the personality or the ability to bring them together into his mold. And if he does, I really do hope you do. You know, my friendship with you, I mean, and Spurs got me through many years of desolation when Forest weren't in the Premiership. And so,
well, look, I mean, in the to-do list, he needs to impress himself upon the changing room right away. That's what I said. Off the field, to impress him about who he is, and then talk about the style of play, the parameters with it, and impress upon them. Now, I understand what you're saying exactly. And I think Clough, and there are other managers around who don't like big stars because they're hard to work with.
Yeah.
Clough said, always bring me a man with a grudge and I'll make him a good player. There was a famous in the foot, we called the no-name defense. And what that meant was that none of them were stars. And they reveled in that, you know, that the no-name. And some managers like a no-name team, you know, that they're all. So I take your point. But to be fair to the Spurs players, you know, players want to be successful. They want to be confident. They want to play in a winning and team. And if he impresses that upon them, I think they'll respond. But he needs to be clear that the authority is his. You know, he can't go hiding. I used to run training courses. They would say players like trainees hunting packs. And if they smell weakness, they'll go for it. But my belief is, and request is that he impresses upon them, imposes himself on them right away, and then sets out a clear strategic style and tactical plan that they understand, can perform to, and achieve in. He's got to do that. He's got to do it. So you think he won't, and I think he will.
I hope he does, but I don't think he will. I just want to make that clear that I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not wishing failure on him. I'm
No, I
not, and
know.
I don't think. I think the professional players should want to win for their own, their own belief
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
So I don't see them turning against him, but I think he needs to get the dressing room sorted out pretty quickly because I think Ange has left a big,
Yeah.
he's a big personality, and I'm not sure that Frank's going to be that guy.
Yeah. Maybe not, Paul. Maybe not as much as you think. Some of the talk of Ange. Now, they're talking about personalities and something, they become increasingly distant. Well, I don't know, but whatever, Frank has to do what we've just said. Now, you think about Nuno. Nuno came in and, his most recent thing in England was a perceived failure at Tottenham. I remember you asking me and my mate Chris, what do you think about him? And we were less than glowing. So imagine the Forest. Cooper was popular. Imagine the Forest dressing room thinking, who the hell is this guy? What's he ever done? But whatever it was, he got in there. And as they say there. So I'm hoping that Frank has that quiet authority. And I think he has.
Okay.
And he won't have taken this on. He's a smart boy. He won't have taken this on thinking, well, I don't know what I'm getting into. I think he was saying, I am, as far as humanly possible, I'm very clear what I'm getting into, and I'm going to make it work,
Okay. All right. Well, then we've talked about failure. We've talked about the potential failure. What will be a successful season?
Top 5 on the trophy. Mega season. Yeah, I would like that.
Okay. Well, I was asked to ask you a question from last week, a comment you made last week that Spurs are going to be top 4. You're the top 4
top
team.
5.
Top 5. And you left Arsenal out of it. And it was an Arsenal supporter that asked me, I mentioned it. Is that just pure grudge against Arsenal, or are you on drugs? Do you honestly see Spurs as being a top 4-5 team after the season they had last year?
An Arsenal fan asking me that, only an Arsenal fan could ask me that.
Right, leave that aside. Do you honestly, are you
he hasn't his drinking? What?
I
do think Spurs are. This is my dream, yeah, and I've got to go for it. You give me. I get grief for being superstitious and not making predictions. So I don't want grief for this prediction. I say the dream season next year will be top 5, assuming they all qualify for the Champions League and a trophy, a pot, or the League Cup, or would even take the Champions League. But whatever. But I really do feel that we've got to start setting our sights high in order to try to achieve them.
Yeah.
Players, well, as long as we finish in the top 10. So you find out that you're going to make the top 10, you stop playing. Spurs have got to lift the bar for themselves and says, we're this good. We should be expecting this. And we've had a great excitement and a wonderful, and it has been, I'm still on a high. So tell you, I'm not on drugs, I'm on a high from a trophy. Yeah. And if he wants, he can drive down the road. I'm sure Tottenham would let him in to have a look. But we've got to do that. With everything else, Spurs have got to raise their expectations back to where they were under Billy Nicholson, Keith Birkinshaw, and Pochettino not that long ago. Yeah. So your perennial Champions League, perennial top 3, perennial semi-finalists, and so on,
Yeah. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of work has to be done there, Colin. I really do. I think that you're coming out of the worst season in the league that these have had in many, many years, and you came close to being relegated. And if it hadn't been for them 3 teams being as bad as they were below you would have been relegated. So I don't think that it's all a bed of roses. The market, there's not nobody pulling up trees in this transfer market at the minute. It's quiet. It opened up again yesterday, and there's still nothing. We will talk briefly about the Club World Cup, and we'll maybe do an episode about it next week. I think there's enough to be talked about. I think you agree with me in that we could have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I mean, the point of what I've said here about Thomas Frank is that if all these things fall into place, I would be comfortable saying we could have top 5. In other words, he gets a relationship with Levy and the board sorted out, that they work with him on transfer targets. I don't mean work with them in field. I mean work with them and get them. You mentioned leadership. We need a midfield leader. We need somebody who takes it personally. I think we need another that's going forward, you know. And I think if we got those and the rest of the team stayed fit, and Romero and Van den Ven particularly stay fit, I say we could have a massively improved season than the one just passed. You know, got to pitch for somewhere. There's no point in saying for a team like Spurs, we want to finish eighth. No point. What does that bring? That's what people were saying. Well, you might as well finish 17th as 7th and get into the Champions League through the Europa League, you know. So there's no point in saying that we really want, and then wonder why the hell we can't do it because we should, you know. And if the board or Levy or anyone else is allowed to get away with anything less, well, then the fans need to say this is not good enough. You know, we need, this is our team, and we want them to be as good as we know they can be. So that's where I'm coming from, you know.
Right, fine. Postecoglou, what do you think's next for him? Where do you think? Do you think he'll get a job in the Prem?
I don't know. I would be surprised. I mean, no offense. I think he will go abroad. I mean, he's a Greek Australian or Australian Greek, so you know he could go anywhere. I think a name club will approach him. You know, somebody abroad who are known. It may be in the Middle East. It may be in, you know, France or maybe not so much Spain. You know, one of those areas he will get. But I think he'll be working again soon. Yeah, and I wish God I loved him in many ways, but you know, sometimes things just
I think he
don't work.
mishandled the press and end up, but yeah. Okay, if you're listening to us and you're in the comment section and you've any questions for Colin about Thomas Frank, or throw them into the comment section and we'll put the question to him. We'll do a couple of minutes on the Club World Cup. What have you thought of it so far?
Okay. What little I've seen, it hasn't helped itself. I think Bayern 10, Auckland City 0 was the poorest start you could get. Inter Miami and Messi 0, and whoever else, Inter or whoever it was 0. No good. I watched the start of Chelsea and LAFC to see who got released actually, and yeah, I think the problem was that was overtaken by how few were there. I'm hoping it will pick up. You know, as a spectacle, what I'm seeing here, we're seeing football in June. That's exciting. We bit of novelty to it, but I think we need a few matches to be able to do a bit of an assessment on its value, both as a spectacle now and its value in the future, and what it represents for the future of football. I guess maybe look at next week, you know. But yeah. I would say so far no good.
Yeah, my view on it is I think it's a bit. Well, I'll have a rant about it. I might as well. I think it's they're trying to Americanize our sport. I think FIFA are taking a good sport, like sending out players one at a time out of the thing, announcing them, walking them out one at a time.
Yeah,
it's not. We don't need this. Our game doesn't need this interference and Americanizing it, sensationalizing it, sending people out the way they are. I think that the stadiums are empty. I think it'll grow legs. The games will get better as the season goes further. I think it will get better.
Yeah.
I think it'll improve. I think that the Boca game last night, I watched the highlights of it today. I haven't watched any of it live. I watched the highlights of it today, and I thought it was a good match. It was a good, hard-fought match. So there is going to be some good games in it.
Yeah.
But overall, they're not getting the numbers in the stadiums, Colin. They're empty. They're empty.
I don't know who decided that. Speaking, I know people who live in Atlanta. And to play a game in Atlanta on a Monday afternoon, a working day, was ridiculous, you know. But somebody else was saying Atlanta's a bandwagon city. I wasn't sure at the minute. What I said was they're not great about their own teams, you know, the Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Braves, so they're not going to turn up for soccer. Hopefully the attendances will be here at all our matches. And what I would add to the world in general is that's the importance of the live audience, the fans who go to watch the games, who pay, who travel, and they should not, by the Premier League, UEFA, FIFA, or TV, be taken for granted in the way that they have been. And when these fixtures come out tomorrow for the Premier League, I want to see us getting enough notice of time changes to make our bookings and make a reasonable price, because they're the difference in what makes. As Jock Stein once said, in front of a big crowd, a good pass becomes a great pass.
Yeah.
You know,
that is right.
And that's the fans make these things, you know.
Yeah.
So that's my final thought.
Well, look, we'll wait and see, and we'll discuss it during the week, and we'll certainly think about doing an episode on it later on. I will say, I watched the Botafogo. I can never pronounce it. Botafogo. We're buying 3 players from them: Igor Jesus, Acuna, and they both scored in the.
That's easy for you to say.
I know. I didn't rehearse the names. I didn't even think about the names. But yeah, we're signing 3 players from them. 30 million for the 3 players. And both of them are established, and a couple of them are established. And there's both of them scored the other night. 2 out of the 3 scored the other night for Botafogo.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. As I said to you, we will work the South American market.
But you know, therein, Paul, I think therein lies a fundamental problem with the concept of a World Club Championship, and that is that Europe sucks away all the talent, and now all the potential talent from South America, Africa, and Asia. There used to be established stars came over.
They want to play in the Premiership. They can't make the money anywhere else. They can't make the money anywhere else.
So what it means is you're playing from Argentina, who have been asset stripped, you know. So it never really is a World Championship, Club Championship, under the current thing. Maybe FIFA want to change that to make staying at home more attractive. Who knows? But anyway, that's for next week.
Maybe they're trying to get the Premiership played in America as well. But one thing, and final note on that, I think it'll give them a chance to see what it's going to be like playing in the World Cup next year, the temperature-wise, etc.
Well, that's what they want. Yeah. And fair enough to them for that. I suppose that's their tournament. It's a FIFA work they want to do. Okay.
Excellent. Okay, we'll leave it at that. I'll thank you very much. But you're in and out, or go or stay. You're ripping out the heart of your team, and you're going for a lot of new players. So you just need to get signing. You need to get very busy. I'm just hoping that we can continue to hold on to our players as it is at the minute. But anyway, anything you want to add before we go, Colin?
No, just good luck to Thomas Frank. Good luck in the Super Cup. The one thing I forgot to mention was Thomas Frank can do something that even I can say I won a trophy in my first season, because he can win a trophy in his first match. So here's hoping. We'll play the small matter of PSG. So probably one of those teams won't score.
Yeah. I just don't see PSG anybody being able to handle them in the Champions League in any shape or form. Well, anyway, I can't wait to see the fixtures tomorrow morning. Can't wait to see it. I hope we get a couple of easy games to ease us into. Maybe get 4 points in the bank and then building that. That's what I'm hoping for. Anyway. Okay. Thanks for the call. Enjoy your evening.
Cheers, everyone.
And we'll call it a day at that, lads, and we'll talk to you next week. I'll put up whatever we're going to be doing next week. We might just throw it up and see what we do, something in the Club World Cup, or there may be some transfers to be discussed, or both. We'll wait and see. But anyway, thanks for listening to us. Thanks for throwing in an odd comment and we will chat.
Cheers.
Thanks.